Holden Made.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Holden Made Podcast. I'm Jeremy Holden, your host for the Holden Made Podcast. This is a podcast about creativity, about creative processes, and anything else that piques my interest. I look forward to interviewing people about their careers, about their creativity, and about their lives in general. Today on the podcast, I'd like to welcome Ben Olson, a prolific artist who has done a lot of work with animation, directing, fine artwork. Honestly, I love talking to the gentleman. Let's listen in and see what he has to say about his love of fine arts, animation, and his career. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. I want to welcome our guest today, Ben Olson. Hopefully, I didn't butcher your name. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself and let us know what you're up to.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Jeremy, for having me on. I appreciate this. We go far enough back in Instagram with messages back and forth, so it's nice to finally meet you in person. My name is Ben Olson. You did not butcher it at all, and I live here in sunny, it's a little chilly at the moment, Central Florida, and I've grown up doing art my entire life. So it's wonderful to do this as well as design. And I've gotten into the creative field when I was young, and I do in multiple different fashions. And it's nice to make a living doing what you love doing.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's been a struggle for some people, and for others, we find success. So it's great to see that you've been doing this your whole life. You love art. You're really, you're just knee deep into it. The reason I know you is because of my association with the Chuck Jones Gallery, whom I
Yeah.
believe you're represented by still, and
Yep.
you've done lots of work with. And I personally fell in love with your work. I found it inspiring, and I thank you for being here doing this. And you know what? We can kind of just dive right into this process. One of my big questions I always ask guests is how did you get started young? You said you've liked art, loved art since you were little. What got you into it? Do you remember what inspired you to start making, or the first thing you started drawing?
So, yeah, when I was in kindergarten, this will tell you like how teachers can leave a lasting impact on you. Mrs. Blackburn, I still remember her name, not one of my favorites. She like I've been into just like drawing and stuff like that, and then by the time I was in kindergarten, then I get into watching Saturday morning cartoons and stuff, and I grew up on that 6, 7, 8 years old. Obviously, Chuck Jones was a huge influence, on what I did and like just the humor in that and the acting and everything they did. And of course, I appreciate it much more as an adult. But Mrs. Blackburn, when I would love drawing, experimenting with stuff, crayons, whatever, didn't really matter. We had these coloring book pages for an art project, and everybody did the coloring book page. And I did my coloring on my coloring book page, wasn't really in the lines, and and then I would layer over it with crayon, and then I took scissors and I scratched out lines and stuff. Well, she put my drawing underneath other people's drawings on the wall because I didn't do it right. And I remember that moment because I was upset because I had done this thing that was different and whatever, and that wasn't the art project. You will draw within color within the lines to do the thing. So uh, that didn't deter me. And growing up, I knew what my purpose was, and my purpose was to create, and it was to create in the field of art and design and film. And so it just kind of grew from there. And I never put it down. I always had a pencil. I had something. My parents are very encouraging of this, and I just kept going. And as I got further into school and high school, college, I had some great teachers and professors. I got to meet some great people. I got hooked up with the Chuck Jones folks and Linda Jones Enterprises, and I ended up not only joining their board of the Chuck Jones Center for Creativity, but getting to become a artist who gets to do Looney Tunes, fine art, and all kinds of goodies. And then I ended up signing with Disney, and it just kind of kept going. So it's been something that I know I've always been meant to do. It's what I felt I was like really good at and put a lot of effort in. And it's been 40 years of like hard work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I, I'm so fascinated that it started with. Usually we hear, good stories about teachers. Now we hear a story that this teacher was not trying to help you one bit in kindergarten. Hey, color inside of the lines. And instead, you're like, well, no, I know I'm doing something different. At such a young age, I'm exploring. You're trying something new, and you
Yeah.
liked that. And maybe at that time you weren't 100% sure about what you were doing because, you're 5 or 6 and you're just doing your own thing, trying to explore. I'm glad that you kept going after that instead of having a shutdown. I'm glad you
Well,
went, well, I don't like that. I don't like that behavior. I'm going to keep creating.
Well, and you know what I find too is because my sixth grade art teacher was terrible also, or I should say, yeah, and she put a class favorite into seventh grade art because you had to be elected into seventh grade art. They didn't have that openly. And I pulled out the stops. We were doing etchings and all kinds of stuff. And I told her, I'm like, I please put me in this class. And she gave it to one of the other girls who like was more of a kind of a teacher's pet who the art was an easy class, so it was an easy A. That's why everybody wanted to get in it.
Uh,
But she just did what like she wasn't even that interested in it, and I knew that because she was like I knew the girl, and I got told I wasn't good enough for seventh grade art. So she was like, no, and I'm like, okay, but I'll tell you, like while those two were negative experiences, and I do encounter more people with the work that I do with the Chuck Jones Center for Creativity, specifically in adults that people are squashing their creativity at a young age, whether it's coloring or drawing or whatever, and you're not doing it right or what is that? And, you know, because those people have had experiences and then now they're translating that forward and that it kills creativity very quickly. And some of us are stubborn enough to keep going. But there really is, whether you become an artist or a whatever, it doesn't matter. It's encouraging that spirit of creativity and innovation and stuff and how you channel those things. My eighth grade art teacher, I will tell you, was absolutely phenomenal. She let me do anything that I wanted to do. And then without me knowing, she entered two of my pieces in a contest. And she came back one day with two first place ribbons and said, "Here you go." And I said, "What's this?" And "I entered your stuff and you won. And you should keep doing this." And she was phenomenal. And so, you know, stubborn enough, but propelled forward. And then my high school art teacher, Mr. Rhodey, just took it to another level. I had 4 years of art and again, experiment with it, teaching me all kinds of stuff. So, you know, I got the senior showcase and the big thing. I got the junior showcase when I was a junior and just kept going. So while the two early experiences weren't as great, right? Those experiences later only enhanced what I was doing and pushed it forward farther. So, you know, for what you do and teachers who like not all teachers are bad, and I'm not saying that,
oh no, not at all. I don't think you said that at all. Yeah.
but like you have experiences where things specific to creativity are not, you know, they're not handled in the best way. And it can, where people might want to explore a little bit. Like I said, maybe they become an artist, maybe they don't. It's not the point. It's what they're expressing and getting out. And because creativity is an emotional thing, right? It's how to encourage that and keep that going in whatever way it manifests itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're going to hear me say absolutely a lot. Apparently, we agree on these points. I know it's one thing I tell my students all the time, if you have something you're passionate about, create it, follow it,
Yeah.
move forward with it. Even if you're just slightly interested in it, get obsessed with it, learn as much as you can about it. It's amazing what 10 minutes a day on the computer will do for you, or 10 minutes a day on a drawing pad will do for you, because by the end of the year, you're going to have hours and hours of experience added up with that 10 minutes a day. Even if it's just something little that you've never explored, you might end up loving it. You might end up cherishing it, whether it be etching, illustration, painting, etc. And it's great when we do find the right people to move us along. I know from my own personal experience, I had a mixed bag of teachers who were supportive and teachers who were not supportive of the arts in general. It just, some were not in that world. Some were all in that world, and it was all or nothing for them. And then occasionally you get the people who go, "Wow, you have a lot of talent. Let's nurture this and let's move it forward." And it's just hopefully finding the right support when you need it. And even if you don't, forget what anybody else says. If there's something you want to make, it's your personal expression. Go out there and express yourself. And at this point, I'm just regurgitating what you've already said, Ben. So we'll move on from that. Um,
Good.
with that being said, that award that you won in eighth grade, do you think that was probably your first dive into understanding what the fine art world had for you? Saying, "Oh, someone believes in me," or "I believe more in myself because somebody did something that they believed in me on," or do you feel like even younger you already knew this is what the fine art world is, or did you have a specific job or piece that you dove into to get into the fine art world?
So I wanted animation when I was 10, and I think my experiences specifically with my eighth grade teacher and then into high school amplified what I knew I already wanted to do. Right. So it took something and someone doing something on my behalf, especially without me knowing, and being like, "I believe in you and what you're doing, so you should keep doing this." And it took something that was like fun and I enjoyed doing it. And it was a continued motivation. When The Little Mermaid came out in 1989, like I loved animation. I didn't care what it was, princess movie, whatever, doesn't matter. Right. And my mom took my brother and I to go see the movie because it was a Disney movie and fine. And so I remember the opening sequence, like Part of Your World and that, and Glenn Keane's animation is like the guy's a master. And like the hair and the movement and everything that went with it. And I was absolutely captivated by the movement on the screen and what I was seeing. And that's when I knew I wanted to get into animation, which turned into where I'm not animating, but I get to do animation fine art. So it started out as there to where, and then of course Aladdin comes out, which is my all-time. I mean, it was Beauty and the Beast, and then which was great, and then Aladdin, which is my all-time favorite animated film. But like watching those things take place and the stories being told and the color and the characters and everything, absolutely fell in love with it. And so while I did not end up on the track to become an animator, and honestly, I'm glad I didn't go down that road because I couldn't do just one thing.
Mm.
I design, I film, I direct, I paint, I do all these things. I have to do a multitude of creative activities. Doing only one thing wouldn't have cut it. So I have a healthy appreciation for animation. I've gotten to direct a really cool piece, which I can't even say anything about until May, but I got to work with J.J. Abrams, and that was amazing. And so getting to work in that field and work with really talented animators just rejuvenated my love for it. But it started all the way back then, and it just kept going. Like there was nothing stopping. There was no stopping force to be like, no, we're not going to be deterred.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know personally, I backdoored my way into the animation world through graphic design. I always wanted to be an animator. When I grow up, I still want to be an animator.
All
I know,
right.
I know I feel like a kid at heart. That's why I love animation, and I know you love animation probably as much as I do. And I know my office doesn't show it, but I've got shelves of Looney Tunes, shelves of X-Men, the animated series. I've got probably 50 cartoon cells that need to be hung up on the wall still. It's there, it's in our blood, it's part of who we are, and it's so cool to know that you wanted to be an animator to begin with. And if you don't mind us diving into this film and directing stuff, how much have you been exposed to the film world or animation world where you get to direct, or where you get are these personal projects, are these small short films, are these industry standard films that you've made? uh, Maybe you can expand on that for us.
Sure. So animation being my first love into that with watching things come to life was a great intro to this because it pushed me into more of life drawing and stuff like that and like an understanding of those things. When moving forward, I never did like get into animation as far as like a hobby even. I animated a little bit, but it was not you couldn't even put it together in like a short, it
Yeah.
wasn't even a 30-second reel. And so when I got into like the fine art scene of things and background layouts, and I look Maurice Noble, and he's a huge influence on like his design and how he does things. Philip Dugard, that kind of stuff from Looney Tunes specifically. But guys like James Coleman from Disney, doing backgrounds in the 80s and stuff like that. Like there's just some really wonderful pieces that were coming out artistically that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And it the dovetail into how I got to direct my first piece of animation for Bad Robot, which is not a bad way to start,
Yeah.
um, was through what I do with Chuck Jones and 10 years of doing Looney Tunes fine art, Warner Brothers fine art, and all the stuff that goes with it. And they found me on Instagram and they reached out and they were like, hey, we have this show and we have this piece of animation that we need we need done, and we need it done in an homage to Chuck Jones. And without saying anything right now because I can't, but I can in May. um it was after two famous characters that he created, and they needed it in that style. And I said, okay. And they're like, we would like you to put together something. Like, could you do this? I'm like, well, I don't animate, but I can build a team. And I have my own design and agency that I've had for 16 years. I build teams to work on projects, and then I creatively direct and work on some main design points. And so I know how to build a team, and I know how to go find that team. So I use referrals. I pulled everybody in. And man, I got to tell you, I learned this learning curve. Like I know animation, right? I know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I got deep into exposure sheets. I got deep into like frame rates. I learned a ton while I was doing this, and they believed in me. They believed in the team that I put together, and we executed this 50-second piece of animation that when it's finally revealed in this TV series that JJ produced, um, it's super wicked cool, and it will give you the Saturday morning cartoons vibe as it rolls, right? And it furthers along this part of the story, and we'll be in episode 4, I think, at the beginning. So when it comes out, and I say, here's what it is, and what was fascinating to me is I'm watching like, yeah, have you seen the documentary, A Pixar Story?
Yes, yes.
All right. So love that. And, and there's a line in there that John Lasseter says, and he's like, give something to an animator, like a really good animator, let them, like, don't over manage things. Get what you have in your head out, and then let them do what they do. And I had TJ House, who was absolutely fantastic. And he worked on Space Jam 2. And then he directed in the 90s those T-Mobile commercials and stuff with Taz and stuff. He directed those. Fantastic animator, wonderful dude. And he was through a referral. And I'm giving things to him. We're riffing back and forth. And then I'm watching him create. And just even in his roughs on what he's doing. And then Tina Norwaki, she worked on Space Jam 2 as well. She works on Cuphead. I hired both those, and I hired people who were far better than me at what they did, their artistry, all that kind of stuff. And which is also key, like, don't have an ego about it, right? Build a great team. You're there for a reason. My role is to direct and oversee, and I have a grand vision, but then trust the people that you hire, and then hire better people than you, right? And so, and you pull that in, you're just going to get a better product. And we went through the writers actor strike. We got put on hold for like 7 months, and then we got back into it. My first meeting with JJ it wasn't nerve-wracking, but it was nerve-wracking because it's 13 people on screen, right? And then me. And so 13 people from Bad Robot, only 5 of them are on camera, right? Everybody else has their camera turned off, and the only ones are JJ, Latoya, who's the other executive producer, the director, my main contact, Paula, and then I've got one more, dude in that mix. And the first words, we had done this storyboard and turned it into an animatic, and I didn't have any of the pacing or the timing down yet. And that was one thing Pauline was like, I need you to, like, channel Chuck. And dude, when I channel Chuck, I'm watching Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoons. I'm going by the frame. Because Chuck was known for his timing. He was famous for his timing. Yeah. And they still teach us timing now at Walt Disney Feature Animation and other places because like they've told us that. And so if it's one frame too long or one frame too short, the gag doesn't work or the thing doesn't work. So I studied his film, and I would count the frames. How long before Roadrunner comes in? At what point does he stop? It's this many frames. How many does this go for? It's X amount of frames. How long is the build up to the next thing? And it's this. And then what is that? And then, the gags reduce by half each. If it's a rapid repeating multi-gag thing, they keep reducing by half. So I had studied all that stuff down, but I didn't put anything in this. Their team had put together the animatic with music and sound effects and everything. And we had an initial storyboard animatic that we started with. We changed it while the strike was going on because we felt like, all right, well, maybe this was it. So I shelved my first version of it. So we play it for everybody, right? And there's JJ on the screen, and one of the coolest guys you'll freaking ever meet. I know why he's as successful as he is, and it's in the way he thinks and the way he treats people. And I highly respect both of those things with him. And he was like, I don't get it. And I was like,
oh.
And yeah, and dude, there was 40 seconds. We needed to hit a 40-second time target. That was the initial target. So we had to do the story in 40 seconds. We're doing it at 24 frames a second. So but again, pacing, timing, none of that was in there. So we do some notes. We're riffing, right? He brings up this one thing. I get that. We're building off that. And then I said, I had this first idea of how it would go. And all I did was explain it to him. I didn't show him anything, right? I just explained what it was. I'm like, it's this, then this happens, and this happens. And when this happens, this happens. He's like, go with that. Okay. Reboarded it quick, right? Turned it around, 'around, 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 ' that collaborative experience and getting shot down at the first go round, which, like to your students and anybody watching, failure is okay. Failure is okay. What you do with that failure is what determines your success. And so it can either motivate you, you can learn. Again, don't take an ego about it, right? Just understand like this is a vision from somebody else who is way more experienced than I am. And I'm getting a master class in storytelling from the master himself, from Star Wars and Star Trek and Lost and you name it, right? And so like take heed on those things and then move that forward. And I got to tell you, man, like by the time we got done and we were going down to like where like there's like frame kicks that happen and it's a mistake in what you see in the Looney Tunes cartoons. It's not, it's like a pause frame and it kicks just slightly. And they're like, yeah, do that. Like, do that. Yeah. All the mistakes, like make it look like this from the 50s. Okay.
Mhm.
And so we did down to the last bit. And when I was working with my editor and compositor, Mark, who I've worked with for 15 years, phenomenal guy, love him. We have a very heavy mutual respect in how we deal with things creatively. And I am so proud of the piece that we did, our whole team. And like Sunny, I had a girl, Sunny from Mexico. So I had TJ in Germany. I had Tina in Canada. I had Sunny in Mexico. And then I had Mark in Chicago. And I had myself down here in Florida. That team put together this piece. And directing a piece of animation for the first time was an incredible experience. It's something I would like to do again. 50 seconds is a long time, when you're trying to pull something like this off, the amount of work that went into it. But man, I loved working with that group and I loved how we told this story in 50 seconds. So it was a fantastic experience. I thank Pauline because she's the one who found me and she was just the greatest person to work with on this whole project. She was my main contact for special effects. So yeah, that was the thing. And like when I finally get to show it, I'm gonna be super excited because like the actor that's in this one, you'll know. It's a series based in the 70s. It's freaking cool, man. And we get to be this key part, which Pauline had said, this is why I'm on this project. It's for this specific project. And people aren't doing this and they're all gonna freak out when they see what's been pulled off. And we did traditional animation. Okay. Hand drawn. Yep. Which is my first love, is traditional hand drawn animation. We did a traditionally hand drawn animated 50-second short in the homage to Chuck Jones and his 1950 style cartoons in the whole deal. Like I did all the layouts and backgrounds, those guys animated. It was just, I did some special effects animating, which I've never done before. So blur effects on stuff, I mean, it was insane. So I'm stoked, and it was an incredible experience to not only play in this world and do fine art, Disney, Warner Brothers, and all that kind of stuff, but to get to produce a piece that is an homage to my greatest mentor that I unfortunately, while I didn't meet in person, I know the family really well, and he impacted me huge. So I got to do this homage piece to like the guy who was my key like person propelling me into be like, this guy creates the stuff that I love. And then reading his autobiographies like Chuck Amuck and Chuck Redux, like he taught me so much. And now I get to produce a piece that's an homage to him. So it's super cool.
That's an amazing story. I appreciate you sharing that. You answered so many of my questions I had for you about who do you believe was your big inspirations. You've mentioned, from Disney, Maurice Noble is one of my big inspirations. You talked about working with great storytellers like J.J. Abrams. You mentioned the entire team. You mentioned your creative process in that entire story. And I would love if we can dive a little bit deeper when you're approaching a project like this, or a painting, or a personal project, when you're working with a client, which you just kind of described. Hey, we have these review sessions. So I take it you started with your design sheet, your layout sheet, or your storyboards. I'm assuming there was a script that was already given to you saying, here's what the thing is about that we aren't talking about. And then you go, okay, now I need to develop my small piece here. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the creative process for any of these kind of works that you do? And you can expand on paintings, you can expand on this exact project, so we can keep on with that same example. It's up to you.
Yeah, well, I'll give you both because they're a little bit different. So specifically with the film piece first, I got cleared by Warner Brothers, so I'm a tier one level cleared production studio for them, which
Got
means
it. Got it.
work on all kinds of stuff, and which is amazing. And so that allows me then, or that allows them to then send me the script pages, and they send me the exact script pages that I need. Has my name on it, and it's like, this is the script. So I take the script and I go for my storyboards from that, and I storyboard the thing out, and I say, okay, here's I think what we're going to do. And it was storyboards and character design, and we started with character design, and then I got into storyboards. Once those were submitted and we went through character designs got approved. Great, now I can move into storyboards. Storyboards were done in an animatic. Once that got approved, then we went into production and we started animating. And then we would do our rough cuts. So what I did was, in the animatic itself, I had the entire thing done, right, timed out and everything. And then I would take the pieces of animation that were coming in, 9 seconds here, 3 seconds there, whatever. And then I would take those and pop those in. And so you would have animatic, which is, every keyframe, and then you would have the actual animation. And then it would go to another piece of like the animatic or something, until the whole thing was roughed out animation. And it was an amazing process. And so once that was approved, animation had to be approved in total. JJ wanted to approve the whole thing. So everything had to be done, which means I had 26 scenes in 50 seconds. So every time the camera changes, there's a new scene, right? Well, there's like 20 backgrounds that I did for this thing. Yeah. And so like the roughs were done for the backgrounds, that gets approved. And then we start superimposing. My compositing editor comes in. They approve all the animation, all the notes come in. Once that's done and locked down, which if I need to go back after that, I can charge. But if I don't, my animators are still doing by the foot, which I learned how many feet are, 16 frames in a foot of animation. Some charged by the second, some charged by the foot. It's all kinds of stuff. So I'm budgeting, I'm running the business end of that side, and the rough animation gets approved. And then the cleanup animation gets approved. And then I give it off to my ink and paint girl, which was Sunny. She ink and paints the whole thing. I give my notes on that. So I'm going back and forth and making notes and edits and stuff. And so is my compositor. And then that gets approved. And then my editor and I are putting everything together. And from there, we show the final, right? And then they start getting to, we need a film grain, but we want the exact film grain that they did in the 50s. We need to make it look like this. And then can you do this? And can you stall out? And we need the little, like, we literally in one segment, if you notice in the films, the road will change from like a warm gray to a cool gray while the Roadrunner's running. Why? I don't know. Do you know what I had to do? That. So all the mistakes, all the stuff that went in,
Yeah.
and then it gets finally approved, and then we export all the files. So that's kind of how that system goes. JJ is there at all the key moments. He approved the final. So he approves the concept stuff. He approves the animatic, he approves final animation, and then he approves the final actually piece put together. So there's your film process. Painting process for Warner Brothers, it's as easy as I love story in what I do. So like the Up piece that's going to Epcot, that I'm still working on. Tim Burton gave me some more notes, and I got to tweak some of that. That's interesting. And then like these pieces back there. So for Warner Brothers, I'll submit a concept and a story, and then they will either approve it, they will approve it with notes, they will give me notes, and I have to resubmit, or they'll just say this isn't working, right? And I have to discard it. Now, once I get approval, I paint it, I show Warner Brothers what I've done. That's it, right? Pretty simple process.
Yeah.
Disney's a little different. Disney, I submit the concept, which is a sketch, same as Warner Brothers. That gets, again, approved with notes, resubmit, whatever that is, right? So once it gets approved, then I can paint. So then I paint. So like I painted this, right? The Jack piece. I submit that. Tim gives the notes on these, so he has to sign off. Well, a little tweak, okay. And then I resubmit, a little tweak, resubmit. I have to submit the final painting for approval. And then they can still make notes on that. And I've got to repaint that whole background with the shadow. I have to repaint the whole thing. That's why it's just sitting there right now. I'm like, I'll get to it. So like when I'm finished with this Pluto one, there's a series of 5 of them. I've got to submit those. Once the painting gets approved, then the SKU's got to get approved. The price has to get approved. It's a whole different system that takes a bit longer, which is fine. It's just a different way to do it. And then as it's finally approved, which the up one is.
Hmm.
And that is available for distribution and for galleries, and then you can send that out and they can be purchased. So it's a little different, kind of the same where you got to send your concepts, you got to have a really good story behind stuff. Same thing with film and fine art. And then the difference is there is just who gets the final sign offs and where that goes.
And that's absolutely wonderful. And for those who are just listening and maybe aren't watching this video that's recording as well, because this is available in video and podcast form, the studio that you're in, you're pointing at paintings in your studio that you're filming from. So I appreciate that you are sharing that. And honestly, there's not much difference from what you're describing for any kind of project that I've personally worked on as a designer. We always have the meeting with the creatives, we always have the meeting with the client, and then you create rough images, say, hey, these are the sketches, these are the ideas. And if I'm the one in charge because I'm a freelancer, usually I'm the one who gives me the okay. I have to send off something that's a really flushed out, rough graphic design piece or motion graphic to a client, and they go, beautiful. Can we make it longer? Can we make it shorter? Or can we, change the color? Just like what you were talking about before, it goes into the final piece. Excuse me. So, with all that being said, I have a big question. This is something I ask everybody. Did you figure your career would be where it's at right now? And if so, how do you feel about it?
No, I thought I was going to go into animation. That's what I thought.
Yeah, yeah,
High school, I got into college, I got into Ringling School of Art Design here in Sarasota. I could not afford the tuition, so I ended up going to College DuPage up in Chicago, which was a fantastic community college, had great
yeah.
professors. I did not think I would be here. So I thought like Disney animation was that was the key, right? Specifically the Florida studio. Thank goodness I didn't end up getting there because they closed it down 2 years after I graduated. So
Oh, wow. Yes, that's right.
yeah, like in 99, no,
Mhm.
2000, was it 97? I graduated high school, 2001. So in like 2003 or whatever, they shut that down.
Yeah.
And so, and then they switched all CG. But I did not think that this is where I would be. And I didn't like, I loved illustration and fine art. So I painted in high school, I painted in watercolor, you name it, whatever. It's constantly creating and stuff. And so what I love about this is specifically like design was a thing I didn't know anything about. I didn't go to school for design. And I got into a design position because I could draw. And they're like, okay, well, you're going to learn how to do Illustrator. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, I can do Photoshop. And then they're like, yeah, but you're going to need to do Illustrator. And I had to do like complex, like
Hmm.
slide chart stuff and then design things and all these mechanics and like the calculations and stuff that went to it. So I learned how to do that. I learned design. I worked with some great people who were awesome and very talented. And then to the point where the pinnacle probably of my design career, as far as like notability, was I created the logo for the bicentennial for the state of Illinois in 2018.
Wonderful. Oh, congratulations. That's a big one.
And so, yeah, that was like that thing was everywhere, And so, like, my name is in the Abraham Lincoln National Library in Springfield, which is freaking hilarious. With my studio name, Three Monkeys and Aardvark Studios. And so, I say that to say, like, that was design, and I got to work on some major branding projects. I learned how to do branding, what goes into logo design, pages, like whatever it is, right? And there's a lot of similarities. It's composition, right? It's story. It's where the eye's going. It's how you're relaying information. But I built a design studio from scratch and had a team. And then the fine art thing was still in me. I got to shot it 11 years ago with Warner Brothers and Chuck Jones. Took that. And then Disney was last year, and then took that. And now I'm going to Festival of the Arts, which I've wanted to do ever since it was open. And a lot of my buddies are there. So I didn't I'm 45, I'll turn 46 this year. And I feel like it's kind of a Samuel L. Jackson moment where he didn't start really his acting career, didn't really hit it and do anything until he was in his 40s. So, like, are you ever like, do I feel that I should have been younger? No, because I wouldn't know what I knew now, and I'm getting to play in it now. And I'm still a 12-year-old, I just have the responsibilities of a 45-year-old. So, I'm very appreciative. Like God has blessed me in this, and like I feel very led and determined, and like this is my purpose. And so, like everything that He's given me and on these opportunities has all come, and it continues to come in this way. And I'm just like, that's what I love. So, to answer it in a nutshell, no, I did not think I would be here. Yes, I absolutely love what I do. So, I wouldn't change a thing.
No, that's absolutely that's what I love to hear. And every creative has a different story about how they got to where they're at, and Some people are extremely happy. Some people are still trying to reach that final goal. You've reached so many points that you've enjoyed and you've shared with us. I'm grateful. I'm absolutely grateful. I'm inspired. And I don't remember if we still have time, but I have just two more questions for you if you're all right with that. Um, this is wonderful, and it feeds my heart with joy to know that you uh, were able to fight off some small little hiccups and then just keep going, build something for yourself, learn something new, and move into multiple career points that had multiple aspects of fine art, the creative field, which let's face it, the creative field is a beast. You need to be able to hustle, hustle, hustle to make
Yeah.
a living right now. It's just a weird spot where there are more opportunities than ever, but there's also more things that seem to be holding us back. And honestly, all I know is if I can do it, my students can do it better than me. And you're a living proof that we can get to that point. And this brings me to one of those final questions. The first one is, when you decided to go to school, what made you decide school was right for you? Because not everybody I talk to goes to school. Some are self-trained artists who end up getting a good career. And if you have any advice for other people who are still trying to find their creative path, what do you think they should focus on?
So school, I think, is important with how you're like. It was important for me because, like, so to give you an example, I went to a 2-year community college. I went 4 years to a 2-year and never got my degree.
Oh,
I just kept taking art classes. Like I had 4 gen eds left and I would have graduated, and I never did that. And my parents threw a graduation party for my brother and I because he was 4 years behind me, and he went to the Air Force Academy, and they threw graduation parties for both of us. Me from college, him from high school. And then I had to tell him the day that threw the party that I never graduated. So yeah, that was fun. So I think it's good when you like, if you can come, some people just have the talent and they can find, like they find the outlets and stuff. There's so many outlets online too now where you can portray your stuff. Like Bad Robot found me on Instagram. Would I have
yep.
ever have met them? Other no, and so like I met Chuck Jones at a gallery event in Chicago, and I met Craig, his grandson, and that's how we met there. So it's all kinds of different ways that you meet people, and it's really about like school and take it seriously. Like don't take yourself seriously, but do take schooling seriously because it's discipline, right? Which as creatives, man, are we great procrastinators? Especially when it's stuff that we don't like doing. Like I hate doing the business end of things on some stuff, and it takes me the longest that. And so like learn to move past procrastinations, learn to get inspired quickly because deadlines are a real thing. Learn to work faster, learn to work better, and continually be a student continually. You're not done when you get a degree, right? That's just the piece of paper that says you've completed these things, and and that people are looking for to see like what's your talent like, because we're in a talent driven field. You need to show up. But the other thing of that is, and not just about what which is good for school. The other thing too that it can provide is who you know. And relationships are the key to everything. It's the key to the whole thing. It's all about who you know. Because you don't have to be, you may not necessarily be the best. Am I the best? No, I am not the best. Am I good? Yeah, I'm pretty good. But, and I constantly work to improve myself and that kind of things. I'm humbled by the other artists that I look up to and I get to hang out with that are my buddies and stuff. And I'm just amazed by what they do. And it's really relationships. It's how you treat people and how you get to know people. And it sounds like, why would that relate to the art field? It relates to any field, for one.
Mm,
But two, it's something that if you're more inquisitive about other people, you're reaching out to other people, you're filling more cups, fill more people's cups than people are filling your cup, because it's going to come back. It comes back in waves. Constantly be looking, and genuinely, not with fake, not with a alternative motive in mind. Do things because you should do them. Treat people really well because you should treat them well, not because you're going to get something in return. That will happen. Let that play its course. I'm 44 or 45 when I signed with Disney. I had a relationship with the publisher of Disney for almost 20 years before I got that. Okay. I've known him for almost 20 years. Why now did it hit in the summer? Because it just worked. It was just the right time.
yep,
So relationships are key. It's not about what you can get from other people. It's about what you can give to other people.
exactly.
So that would be the biggest thing there. You can get that at school because your professors and stuff, like people come in, they have connections. You should meet this person, but just really being subject to really good instruction. if you think you're the best, you're going to get shot to pieces.
Hmm.
So don't carry that ego. Don't carry it. I have a mentality of I have never achieved my best. I'm constantly inventing and reinventing, and I've got a new series that I'm doing for this show too that I'm trying something a little different. Like reinvent yourself, you know. So that's that part of it. And then the to your second question, forgive me, was if they don't feel if they're looking for their creative
Oh,
field.
so if somebody's out there still trying to find their creative path and they don't know what to do, they want to be creative, they're still looking for their spot in the world. What do you feel they should do? How do you feel you could share some kind of piece of inspiration that might say, "Hey, you know what? You may not know what you want to do, but here's how you should move forward." If you feel like you have some information like that.
So I did not expect to do what I'm doing here, right? It was something that like fine art, is that a thing? Do you make a living or that? I wanted to be an animator. But I did design, I did all these other things. So what I found specifically to creatives, right, is we are a creative first. How we get that out does not mean we have to do one thing only, right? I don't just do this or the film, I do it all. And that inquisitive mind and that urge to create things allows you to be like, if you're looking for your creative passion, you're not quite sure what it is, we have so many tools at our fingertips right now to try out design, watch a YouTube video on something on how to create something, or if you're in school, understand like take varied classes, you know, and take life drawing, take color theory, take design, take composition. I did like digital art and stuff and try that out. I was trying all kinds of things in college, just different classes to really like kind of mix it up and be like, so what is this? And what I found in design is I loved it. Branding, I loved it. Painting, I loved it. Film, I loved it. And there's so many opportunities out there for a career path in whether it's video games or film or design or whatever, that it's just like the world is literally your oyster. And if you can experiment with things, try to create a logo. Do you like that? Do you understand kind of the theory and stuff behind that? Because it's not just drawing a little picture, like there's stuff that goes into it. You know, do you painting? All right, what's your story behind that? Like, what kind of colors are you using? Like, why is that? What's the composition telling you? Do you like film and animating? All right, well, what story are you telling there? It really comes down to story pretty much in everything, right? So if you like storytelling, if you like those kind of things, great. But try little things and like you said, take 10 minutes, whatever, try something.
Yep.
Like take 15 minutes, try something up. Don't get discouraged by it. But if you're finding you're like, this thing isn't really my thing, but I really do love doing this, and then put the work in. I found out in what I thought I wanted to be as an animator was not the career path for me because I would be doing that one thing and I would be consumed with that, and I needed to express in multiple avenues. So I found at a younger age, and I didn't realize this until I was probably like 28 or 29, that as I looked back, animation, me being an animator specifically, I wasn't going to do it. I loved it. I loved the idea of me doing it, but me actually doing that, no. I love doing this. I love directing it. I love designing stuff. I found in those creative paths that as I explored these other opportunities, right, in design, which I knew nothing about, and got thrown into a career or a job that they were like, you're going to figure this out. Okay. And I found out that I really enjoyed it, you know? So take it from someone who thought they were going to be in one field and then turn this into this whole creative smorgasbord of stuff that I've done over the last, 25 years, that there's something for you out there. If you feel that you are a creative and you want to express yourself visually, musically, whatever, we have never had more tools at our disposal to try it out. So don't be intimidated by it. Find people that are good at it too, and then ask them about it. Like, well, how did you do this? Right? Don't keep it all to yourself either. Like, don't try to do it in a bubble. Go out and talk to the other people who are doing it. Make friends with people. Comment on social media posts, whatever. Spark up stuff. I mean, I'm sitting here with you now, and we started talking about Looney Tune stuff, and just making comments back and forth, and that was a couple of years ago, and here we are.
Yeah.
So you never know what would happen. Like engage with people and see if like that, as you get a little further into that, whatever that thing is in the creative field, if that's something for you.
And absolutely. And the biggest thing I'm going to take away from what you've said, I'm going to build on that: being genuine, be
Yeah.
honest. Don't
Yes.
don't be don't be a snake oil salesman. Don't just be upfront with who you are and what you're trying to do. And again, I became associated with you through work you did for the Chuck Jones Gallery. I used to donate work. Actually, I still do. I haven't this year, but I donate for their Red Dot auction. That's how I became associated with them.
Good.
Oh,
Got 15. I got to do my piece. You should do one also.
I need to. It's definitely been time consuming. And I'll tell you, I never have such joy as talking to everyone that's involved. You know, whether it was Linda, Craig, or I want to say Robert. I don't know if Robert's still there, but
I'm retired, but yeah.
yeah, with all of them, they were very supportive. It was a very interesting experience. I found your work. I ended up following you online, and you start posting about Looney Tunes, and I'm like, well, I'm a giant Looney Tunes nut. And then I have a friend who runs a Looney Tunes podcast. By the way, I should you should talk to him. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I always thought I was the
What's his name?
biggest nerd. Say
What's
that
his
again.
name? What's his name?
Uh, you'll have to forgive me if I always reference everybody by
Is it This
their
Means Podcast?
this means podcast, yes.
So I
And
know him.
I'm so embarrassed because I'm blanking on my friend's name, but I'm not
Dude, you
going
don't need to
to
worry about it. Because what's funny about that is I met him through like Eric Bauza, who I got to meet, and like we're connected online and stuff, and we've gotten to hang out a few times. But and I always went by This Means Podcast. But man, he had sent me an email recently, which is what I'm looking for real quick to see if I can find it on here. But yeah, I know who it's not
but
Josh.
I'm embarrassed because I talk to him every day.
Dude,
I know his name. It's one of those moments where
what?
I'm not going to edit any of this out. I'm going to make sure that he knows I had a massive brain fart on his name. But I know everybody online from uh,
Because you didn't have to
what do
do
we
that.
call it? I know everybody from their Instagram handles
Yes,
when I'm talking to them. So unfortunately, it's just one of those things. I mean, his last name is Graves, if that helps.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan Graves.
See,
Oh
as
man,
soon as you said great,
Jonathan, I apologize. I forgot your name for 12 seconds, but guess what? You are a friend of mine, and Ben, I'm glad you talked to him. But he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to, and again, I thought I was just the biggest hidden Looney Tunes nerd that was out there, and Jonathan is so much more knowledgeable than me, and it's great because he teaches me new things, and I teach him some new things, and not probably not the time to mention it, but we still need to release Acme versus Coyote. That's gonna be on my deathbed bucket list to see that movie, even if it never comes out. I will find a way.
we will
But
get a pirate. We will get a pirated copy
you
somehow.
know, I cannot condone that. But if it happens to show up on YouTube someday, I will be happy to watch it because YouTube
Right?
is its own workplace. But
Yes.
backing way up into all of this, I was going to say being genuine, being upfront. I start talking to these people. I started talking to you. That's how we kind of became friends. Was just our love of art and our love of Looney Tunes. And I can't tell you how much of your work you've put out there that has inspired me. I can't tell you how many people I've seen you work with, and they inspire me. It's wonderful. I appreciate it. And again, just if we can just get that through people's heads to be upfront, honest, genuine, and that's why I'm a teacher. I want to give back. I want to help people. And as sappy and as illogical as that sounds in modern day, where it's all about hustle, get the money. No, I care about family. I care about people following their dreams. I didn't have the opportunities as a kid or even have the opportunities in college where people actually focused and said, hey, let's, give you a break because I always had three jobs. Every one of these interviews that comes up for some reason. I had three jobs in 19 units. And if I was late on a project in an art class, my professors tend to be a little bit more like, hey, you're failing. Why are you even in this class? That wasn't supportive. And I will share one story. You shared a teacher story. I'll share a teacher story. Luckily in high school, everyone was supportive of me. My parents were supportive of me. My one college professor, whom I can't remember the name of, and thankfully, because I would dwell on it forever, given the way my mind works, they, I was not able to complete a project. I made something. It was terrible. I did not want to turn it in, and I asked in the middle of class, "Hey, can I just create anything else?" And in their office was off of the class. They dragged me into the office, left the door open, and belittled me so much it brought me to tears. And at this point, I'm a grown man. I'm in my 20s. 22, 21, whatever it might have been, might even been 24. And the people in the classroom were hearing this, berating of, you're never going anywhere, you're never going to get anything done, it's like you're a failure. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm ever an instructor, I'm never going to let anyone treat a student like that again. And it's people like that unfortunately think they're doing some good. Well, no, everyone's got something going on in their life. So just be honest up front and ask questions, share about your life. And I think you put that very well when you're saying, hey, if you're interested in working with someone, well, be interested in the person first.
Yeah,
And don't worry about the work or the plan. Not everything's a business meeting. So I know I ranted a little long on that, but I appreciate where I'm at. I appreciate that you're giving the opportunity to share. Let me rephrase that. I'm appreciating that you're sharing your knowledge and giving others the opportunity to learn from it. So thank you, Ben. And I know we're running a little low on time from what I told you, so I really appreciate you being here.
yeah.
Yeah. And I want to thank you again. And well, hopefully you have a great day and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man. Thank you for having me on, dude. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, Ben. Thank you.